the mouthfeel that comes from the tannins. And it's quite an overpowering feeling if you're not used to a more drier style. Generally, I'd find the Australian palate is cued to the slightly more sweeter styles of cider, whereas being from England and growing up in a lot of dry, kind of almost scrumpy cider, I'm very familiar with that, and people are really receiving that quite well here. Especially people that are enjoying a dry white wine, for instance. So that's kind of
it definitely still has to be balanced as well, but you don't want to have a cider that's just loaded with tannins and really dry because it just grabs you up around the gums and isn't pleasant. You still need that balance. That's why I think it's nice just to have a little bit of residual sugar in there. I mean, for the more hardcore cider fans who like the bone dry stuff, you can have that. I don't think it would move very well here in Oz, but I think that little bit of residual sugar just gives it that nice sort of little bit of balance at the end. And then when you jump up to a more sweeter variety, between the zones, I suppose, between the bone dry and the sweeter cider, you need to be careful how much residual sugar you've got, because they do fit in certain categories. You don't want to be calling a sweeter cider a medium, so you've got to sort of be cautious of that. And I suppose all my effort goes in at the start of the blending, so it's the blend of the different apples. So I sort of know the properties of each apple, and I pitch it to what I hope that I'll end up with. And if I'm not happy, I still have the option to blend at the end as well. So there is a bit of play there.
I think when you're drinking a sweet Coppin, for instance, something that's more fruity, you're looking for that quite intense sweetness level, but you are also hoping that there's going to be a bit of acidity and something that's going to balance that back out. Otherwise you kind of get that, it's a bit one-dimensional, I guess would be a way to describe it. You need something that's kind of going to balance it back out, rather than you having a couple of bottles and maybe feeling slightly overwhelmed by the intensity of the flavour. So that's something I would look for when trying a style of sweeter ciders.
A lot of our ciders are typical, like with the summer picking up there, it's really lightly carbonated. Our draft cider, which is much more like a UK style, it's got a lot of that earthy, heavy, sort of funky notes to it, still lightly carbonated, and that sort of brings in a certain amount of acidity in there as well, so you have to be careful of that when pitching a cider. And I think also when tasting that, you don't want, in my opinion, you don't want it to be overly bubbly, so it's like I don't know, you get that sharp.
I find sometimes, you get kind of too distracted by an over-carbonated cider. That's all you really notice. You don't actually appreciate the apple quality that's in there. That was one of the reasons why we focus on a more still range, is so that you actually just taste the raw cider element as opposed to just being focused on the bubbles. So if I was sticking to a more typical cider, I would probably look for something that had a smaller or more delicate bead.
So I don't know if that might be a personal preference, I'm not sure, but that's sort of what we sort of think, isn't it?
Yeah, we get a lot of feedback obviously from our customers that come through, and they do say that's why that's obviously kind of a real draw card for something that's lightly carbonated, is because you don't feel that bloating feeling, especially kind of people that aren't that into the carbonation of some beers. They do really enjoy just something a little easier.
Yeah, definitely.